Welcome to the Cover Podcast. I am your host, Maya Karen, and on this show, we discuss women and how we are showing up in the world. I'm so excited. Please welcome back Ali Masters. She is the CEO of BioCurls. So the first time we had a conversation, we talked about your natural hair story. But we were just talking off camera, and number one, we realized that the conversation was not over, and we hit some pretty uncomfortable topics, and we wanted to bring it to the forefront, but we also wanted to introduce more ladies. So please welcome back Ceata Elash. She is the CEO of the Puffka. And then please welcome Jessica. And you are the CEO of DYG Fitness. So our aim for this conversation, because all of us sitting on this stage are very passionate about the subject that we are getting ready to talk about, which is natural hair. So our hope is that you guys would have some self-reflection, grab your sisters, your uncles, and your mothers, and let's have a conversation about natural hair. So let's get into it. Texturism. The definition or basic definition of texturism is a form of discrimination or bias against people with curly, coiled, or textured hair. It is based on the idea that hair textures closer to white are more acceptable. So, Ali, when did you realize that this was an actual thing?
I would say for me, it was more when I was pretty prevalent on like social media. And that's when it really started in terms of people commenting saying, well, it was a mixture of being called one poodle. And then on the other side of people saying, well, you have the more, wanted hair texture. So speaking on, issues of people calling me like mop or bird's nest, which I still get a lot of, messy and unkept I still get, or too poofy. And then there's people that disagree with that and say like, no, like, that's the texture that everyone is glamorizing, and that's what we're seeing more in terms of brands and partnerships and what you're seeing on TV and things of that nature. So it's definitely a place where that's why I think a lot of it is important to me, is because there's so much depth and a lot of it is surface level. A lot of assumptions are made, and I think it's important to talk about on a deeper level in terms of that mental health aspect and asking ourselves, where is this genuinely coming from? And, is this something that we are only going to talk about because you're seeing it on social media, or you're seeing it on the media, or is it something to talk about because you're genuinely hurting, or you don't feel like you're enough, you don't feel like your hair is enough? There's so many different aspects. So when I started seeing the comments for years now, and it's something that is incredibly important to me because I want people to see the beauty and who they are as individuals and not as what others have to say or what society has placed upon them.
So you got both comments. You got some people who were calling you poodle, but then people were also saying, well, no, your hair texture or your hair type is actually the coveted hair texture.
Yes.
Now I'm going to go to Ceata, but because it's very clear that two of you have two different textures. When did you realize texturism was a thing?
Texturism has been a thing since I was a kid, but they didn't give it a name.
Okay.
A title like that.
I agree with that.
So it's always been around. I mean, it's been around since slavery. This is not anything new, but I think it's more in the forefront. It's more in your face, and it's more of people just really discovering their personal journey and where they're going to be in this conversation. And I think that, it flows from all ages. I think now, as mothers, daughters, aunties, sisters, and friends, we're more acceptable and embracing of each other, but there's still so many of us that have a long way to go. And I think and I know, I'm not gonna say I think, I know it's a self-awareness, and it's a self-acceptance. And with the texturism, there comes colorism too, because there's a whole, that plays a big part of it. And we have to have these open conversations to literally open the door to say, what can we do and how can we think differently to accept the way God made us, period, and stop putting emphasis on the texture of your hair, which really does not matter. It's about who you are. It's about your soul. It's about your character. It's about your personality. It's about what God put you on this earth to do. And if you're made in His image, you're beautiful, period. So I think social media, just like Ali said, that's brought it to the forefront, but also there's a whole bunch of social media bravery that will allow people to say things that they would never say in person.
Absolutely.
that I've been dealing with. I didn't even tell about my story, right, when I realized it. But I don't want to take over the conversation, but it's been around for years. I transitioned in, and didn't even know it was called a transition then, but I stopped chemically straightening my hair back in 2006. And I remember that time. That was when before curly was a thing, period. And I remember my great aunt was in the hospital, and I went to go see her, and I had my afro out. And at that time, I really didn't know what I was doing with my hair, but I was determined to do it, whatever it was. And we were in her hospital bed, around her hospital bed, my cousins and some of her siblings. And she was like, "What are you gonna do with that hair? Because you look nappy." And I was like, "I'm not gonna do anything with it. I'm just gonna be me." And that took a lot, because I'm talking to a 90-year-old woman, but I'm talking to a 90-year-old woman who I had to have empathy for, because she was light skinned. She was, had the better texture in terms of all of her siblings. So it was me having understanding of where she was coming from, and then also not apologizing for who I am and what I was doing.
Absolutely. Jessica, do you have an example? When did you know it was a thing?
As Ceata said, like I've always known it was a thing. Um, as she mentioned, it just didn't have a title. But I feel like I've been dealing with it, or have dealt with it since I was a child. Even as a kid, you start comparing yourself because you see other people's hair and you're like, oh, why isn't my hair as straight? Or I want my hair to look like hers, or your hair is, the comments of your hair is nappy, or your hair, you need to go fix your hair, and I think even my mom, like the first time she permed my hair, I believe I was probably like 8 or 9. And it was a thing, it's going to be easier to manage, and so it's like we've been conditioned by our parents, who at the time I feel like they did the best they could with the information they had. And I don't think that they understood how detrimental that was in teaching us to not appreciate our own hair, by saying, okay, you need to change this in order to fit in, or in order to appease, the greater society, or whatever people expect of you. Other things that I've experienced, I was just telling Allie as we were riding up the road, is that I do wear a lot of I wear weave and like extensions, because I'm an entertainer, so I'm constantly changing my hair. So when I do wear my hair out, people are like, "Oh my God, like you have such a nice texture hair." And I told her, I was like, "Who established that? Like, where did that come from? Who said what kind of hair is good hair? Like, where did that ideology start? And why is that, being said to someone as a compliment? Because it's not.
It's not.
That's not a compliment, but it shows how much we've been conditioned to think that way, that it's like, oh my goodness, you have good texture hair. Or people are like, I didn't realize you had all that hair. And it's like, again, people pin that to you and make it your identity, as you mentioned, when it's not. Your hair does not matter. However, you should feel comfortable wearing what God gave you. And just because I do wear weave, or because I do wear extensions, doesn't mean I don't love I absolutely love my natural hair. I love my natural hair, but sometimes for convenience, because I'm constantly traveling and moving around, working out, training, it sometimes is more convenient for me to do something a little bit more practical. But again, this has been something that's been conditioned in our minds, I believe, from a young age, because our parents, grandparents, as you mentioned, this is what they knew. I remember getting prepared for church, and my mom's like, "Oh, I have to press your hair." And that hot iron, I don't know if y'all remember, sitting on the stove, and you're like ducking and weaving because you don't want to get burned. But I'm like, we were being tortured mentally and physically, just to fit a box of someone. You get what I'm saying? It's someone who established this.
Perfect segue, Jessica. Let's talk about mothers. We're all grown women, but I wanted to bring this up and just ask the question, are we doing this to ourselves? Because as mothers raising a young woman, you are the first example, or if you are a caregiver, you are the first example of what she sees, meaning that that's what she thinks a woman should be and how she acts. If you have a mother who is either consistently wearing weaves, wigs, and extensions, and that's all that her daughter sees, or if she is constantly huffing and puffing and talking about how terrible and how nappy her daughter's hair is, and Allie, I know I'm going to defer to you because I know this is a huge mental component, but what mindset are we setting for that little girl as she's growing up? If the mother is always wearing weaves and wigs and she's never seen her mother's natural hair, and then when it comes to the daughter, it almost seems like the daughter thinks that her hair is a burden or that it's a problem.
I would say for me, I grew up with my mom being in the hospital all the time. So I grew up with a housekeeper who raised me, but she knew nothing about natural hair. She was wonderful, but I will say I have vivid memories of at that age with my hair being like big and poofy, of that it was hard to manage. I remember that, like, someone always saying like, oh, this is difficult, or like you have to sit still and like this is going to take a while, or kind of just grunting and complaining while doing my hair. I was taking that in as a child, so I was kind of being like, I'm difficult. What can I do to make like myself be more easy and not a burden? Because I started to feel like a burden in more ways than one. And I vividly remember my cousin, and she was doing my hair, and I was full-blown sobbing tears, and I just remember her like yanking my head back because I kept trying to like move. And I just remember her saying like, this is gonna take a while, like you're just gonna have to get over it. And like, it was that whole thing of like, I hate my hair. And I remember at a very young age saying, I do not want this anymore. I hate my hair. So I always said, can you do something to put it up, put it away, braid it? I don't care, but I don't want it. Like, and that's when I remember, like, that's when it started of, I don't like the way I was born. So I remember in those moments of people saying it was difficult, that's when I started saying like, my hair is a problem.
I mean, I agree 100% with that. That's, as I mentioned before, some of the things that I experienced is, when my grandmother had to do my hair, it's like, oh my goodness, you need to sit still, or, tugging and the complaining. And, finally, again, when my mom parted my hair, she was like, it's just going to be easier to manage for everybody, because that way I won't have to hear you crying. And I think the issue with that, as I mentioned, the conditioning is now it becomes deeper than,
Yes.
it cuts deeper than hair, because now it makes you question your own self-worth. Now it makes you think or see yourself as a problem when you're not a problem. Your hair is not a problem. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you, but this is what you're being told. So as a child, you don't know how to separate your hair from who you are, because you haven't been taught that emotional maturity. You shouldn't have to. Absolutely. You shouldn't have to do that. And the people who are meant to protect you are now hurting you in a way that they can't even see. They don't even know. And you're absorbing that because you're like, okay, this is a person I look up to. So that's what makes you think, okay, if the person I look up to and that's supposed to protect me is telling me there's something wrong, then at your core, you start to believe that. And then everything after that continues to solidify that thought. And you go through life thinking, wow, like I have to tuck my hair in, or I need to continue straightening my hair. And then here comes society. You walk into a job and it's like, what's going on with your hair? Why isn't your hair straightened? Why isn't your hair done? And then you think that that's the standard. You think that that's what's supposed to happen because that's what you've been taught.
It's definitely a generational thing, because the same stories that you all are talking about, I'm older than you, and we've dealt with the same, I can verbatim, the same things. And then we have the same comments, the same criticisms, the same, your hair is this, so this is going to be a difficult, like, prepare yourself for the pain, prepare yourself for the anguish. And like when my mother would have to do my hair, was always, your hair is just like, you have your father's hair. Well, they were divorced and I look like my father. So it was like, it was another personal, I won't say attack, but it was her issue manifesting on me. And that's why I say that it was like, you're asking, where did this come from? It's a lot of layers. It's a lot of layers that women have had to deal with. And where did it start? I've done some research, and I know it started when it came to us as Black and brown people entering the workforce with white people, period. And in order for us to be made more palatable on them, our hair was the big difference, right? So we went through straightening our hair in order to assimilate, point blank. That's where it came from. And then it became you could be more successful or have less resistance in your career or path or whatever if you played the part and looked the part. So, I mean, and then from that point of our parents and grandparents wanting you to be successful, wanting you to have every chance that you could and not have you be held back by simply as the state of your hair, of course, they're going to be like, you got to straighten it, because that's what they were taught. But then it came down to the fact, it's like, wait a second, we started to realize and open our eyes. It's about my talent. It don't have nothing to do, don't make me cuss. It don't have nothing to do with what's coming out of my scalp. Is that more of, right, is that more of your issue than it is mine? And then on top of it, it's like, was it really, I mean, after so long, was it really the white man who was having, or the white woman who was having issue with our hair? Or was it us amongst each other having more of a problem with what your hair looked like, what texture your hair was, or your hair was straight, or whether it was curly? I've talked to more women now that it's been like, yeah, my white boss never said anything to me, but my Black mentor definitely had something to say to me when I interviewed or when I started the job. And it's like, okay.
So it kind of sounds like we are sacrificing manageability for self-esteem.
I don't think it's manageability. I think it's, I'm sorry. Because my hair is never, my hair does not need to be managed. People need to be managed. My hair doesn't need to be managed. What I do know, there was a deficit on knowing how to take care of my hair. Just like anybody that called you poodle, tell them come see me. Because I was like, I don't have a good poker face, but it's like, that's comparing you to a dog. Yes. Let's not do that. Yeah. But the whole thing was, we were never given the proper tools when it came to straightening our hair. The proper products and products that were not destroying our hair, but actually helping to maintain health of our hair. We weren't given that. In the very beginning, the products I think that were created by Black people, yes, they were healthier and not full of different chemicals and this, that, and the other. But there's a whole economic side to this.
There is.
There's a whole economic side. What Black and brown people spend on hair care and maintenance freaking plays such a role in other cultures that support their whole economic system. Yeah. It's not being manageable. It's about you knowing how to take care of your hair. Not take care of my hair to want to look like her curls, but take care of the curls and maintain the curls that I have on my head.
Absolutely. All right. The next thing, which I already know, she's mixed because she has good hair. Allie.
You're mixed?
When people first see you, is that the assumption, or do they just think you are a light-skinned Black woman?
I get both. Okay. And it's a touchy subject for me because of my adoption. So, and I don't know anything about my biological parents, but I just strictly was not wanted. So for me, you know, the majority of the people I've come across, no one has ever really said directly to me, you know, oh, it's because you're mixed. It's really just, they're looking at me in a space of like, you know, well, you can't complain. That's the main main comment that I get. And it's interesting because growing up, you know, in middle school, that was the big thing. You know, of course, you know, my skin complexion and I straightened my hair all the time. So a lot of the comments was, well, your hair moves and, you know, has all this stuff going on. And like, that's not the case for us. So it's kind of like getting isolated because of these things. But at that age, I didn't understand it. I was not understanding hair into that depth. I just knew that it was a problem curly, so it just needed to be straight. And so when I was hearing all these different comments about it, and then my skin complexion coming in at that age, genuinely no one sat me down and had this conversation with me. So I was very confused. And so that was hard. But as I got older, I knew that I started talking to other people who with different textures, and everyone's stories at the end of the day, it's interesting. We have the same foundation of like, we all hated our hair. That's what it was. And so I think for me, I get really, I get sad when I get a lot of comments like that today on my social media, and I always make it a point to reply back to people that compare their texture to mine, because at the end of the day, I don't want anyone to ever feel unworthy, unloved, unheard. My platform is a space to be vulnerable. I want you to tell me that, but I am not going to sit here and say like, LOL, I'm sorry you feel that way, or like, sending love. Absolutely not. I am going to remind people of who they are. You have a story. Your hair tells a story. Your hair has history. It has meaning. And at the end of the day, it's not, like you said, it's not about the texture. It's about who are you? How do you want to show up? Do you want to let society dictate your every move? Because that's not a way to live. And so what I say to people is bigger than just their texture. There's so much more meaning behind it. And so I get really passionate about it. So I make it a point to really let people know, like, we need to have this conversation. And I want to create a safe space, because I tell you, a lot of people are saying, you hate yourself if you don't love your hair. You wear wigs, you don't love your hair, you don't love yourself. Like, it's the delivery is disgusting. That's not how you talk to someone who's hurting. So I could go on all day about it, but yes.
So I will make my experience very short. And I've had this conversation with both of you. Jessica, you might not be aware, but as my community has grown, I'm beginning to get comments myself about being mixed. I identify as a Black woman. So just like with you, Allie, whenever I talk about things on my channel, I use curly, I use coily, I will never use nappy. That is a derogatory term. We need to move away from that. But I'm beginning to get the comments, and like you and I have talked about, just the mental component behind that. You ask me what I am, I tell you I'm Black, and then you ask me, am I sure? Or then you want to go down my lineage. Okay, well, you said your mother is Jamaican. What was your grandmother and what was your grandfather? I'm Black, don't worry about it. Yes. I feel like it's very divisive. But my next question is it just hair? And I remember, Allie, you did a reel about this, so you can start it off. Is it just hair?
Absolutely not. And it will never be just hair. We wouldn't have laws written to protect us. We wouldn't have microaggressions in the workplace. We wouldn't have people having to get pulled out of class. We wouldn't have students not being able to graduate. It's never just hair.
Ceata?
No. No. Like I said before, and I think it's very evident, there's so many more layers to this. It's never just hair. It's hate in one way or another. And to tell you all, none of us are Native Americans, so we're all mixed sitting up here. All of us have more different biological, DNA backgrounds, right? I just did my ancestry, and I've got all the way from northwestern, Wales to the Cameroon to Irish. There's no, unless you are like Black African, we're mixed up with everything. So we have to, again, it's one of those things, it's like, are we gonna get caught up in the word? Are we gonna let the word have that power? Or are we just gonna really just let back and be like, no, I'm me, okay? Just like you said, I am me. You don't have to dissect my background. You don't have to dissect how thick my lips are, how wide or narrow my nose is, whether I have waves or curls. I am me. I am me, and love me as for me, accept me as for me until I prove otherwise. There's no reason to keep digging into trying to give someone else power into what they think you are.
I agree 100%. I would say with hair, obviously it isn't just hair, but I do feel like your hair, it is an identifier, but it is not your identity. So it identifies it identifies your history, you know what I mean, your heritage. It tells us where you come from. It tells us what makes up, your story, your family story, but it doesn't determine or define who you are as a person. And I think people, it's so funny though, because, you know, we say it's just hair, but then people turn it into a culture. And I don't mean culture as in heritage, but I mean culture as in a culture show. So, you know, people will say, oh, okay, you know, your hair is this, your hair is that, but here you are replicating what's naturally ours. We get it naturally, and then there's other people who want that look, you know, and they turn it into, oh, I can get my hair done like this too, and I could. So no, it's not just hair.
It's the same thing as like you said, identifier. It's the same thing in our voices. When you can hear whether someone is got African in they soul when they talk. You know what I mean?
Like when they pick up the phone and you can tell the person is black.
You can tell. Right, you can tell. Maybe other folks can't tell, but like, I love that you said that. Right, I can tell every single time. There's only been one time I was like, "Wow, I really had you as white," but no, you weren't. But it's still like I love the way that you put that. That Jessica put it's an identifier, just like is it Kate Middleton? Is that Harry's wife?
Ma- Harry is Megan. William is Kate. William and Kate, yes.
I'm sorry, Meghan Markle, right. Like when I saw her at the grocery store on the magazines, I was like, that girl got some color. But what you look straight for them edges, and you know,
The
right?
edges will always
The edges
tell you.
tell it. The
Did
edges tell it.
any of y'all see Bridesmaids with Maya Rudolph?
Yes, yes.
That's when I knew.
Yes.
I don't know if they forgot about that day to touch it up. But I was sitting back in my chair and I got a little closer. I said, wait a minute. I see those edges, Maya.
You know who her mom is?
Minnie Rippleton.
Yeah.
That was my first time being introduced to her.
Okay.
Yeah, but that was.
You like, right. The girlfriend got some color in us.
Wait a minute. I see those roots. I see those roots, Maya. All right, let's move on. Jessica, I'm going to start with you, but let's get a little bit deeper because you touched on it briefly. Is wearing wigs, weaves, and extensions, or wigs, weaves, and extensions with looser texture self-hate?
I don't think it's self-hate, but I'll get deeper into that. I think it depends on how you view it.
So there are caveats.
There are definitely caveats with that. So if I were to say I will not be seen dead with my natural hair, the only thing I'm gonna wear is wigs, weaves, and extensions, then at that point, I think there's a deeper issue. Because at that point, you do think that there's something wrong with you in your hair. And I think that's something that I get too, because people are like, well, if you have all this beautiful natural hair, why don't you wear it more? You know, and so I'm like, I love wearing my hair, but again, sometimes it's convenience, but I don't mind wearing my hair. Like I'll go out with my hair freshly washed and let it air dry and go to the supermarket. I'll go to the mall. I don't care because I actually love my hair. So I definitely think that the caveat is if you, once again, are using that as as your identity, tying your identity to the way that your hair looks and thinking if it doesn't look a certain way, then now that changes your ability to be more palatable or to fit in more. You know, I don't care about fitting in, so I'll wear my hair. You know what I mean? But I do know people who will not be caught dead with their natural hair.
Oh no, and that's the reason why I asked, because I have right here caveats, and you gave the examples. But a question I do want to ask you, since you said that, do you think that some of the women who are using that as an excuse, do you think they're hiding behind, not necessarily self-hate, but maybe they don't feel comfortable, but they're using the experimentation as an excuse?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can say that at one point I was one of them.
Okay.
But that came from a place of, again, me having a lack of knowledge of how to properly care for my hair. It wasn't because I didn't want to wear my hair. It's because I didn't know how to care for it in a way that really accentuated my curls or really brought out, you know, more of what, you know, of my texture, so that I can see, okay, in my mind, I was like, okay, if my hair does not look like this, then I'm like, okay, it is a mess, because that's what I was taught, you know, from a child. That's what I heard. So yeah, that trauma, you know, that foundation was there, because let's call it what it is. It did create trauma, you know, and I lived with that and I carried that along with me. Those comments stick with you. Yes. And so I taught myself, okay, if you don't know how to, you know, manage your hair, or if you don't know how to properly do this, then it's not in order, you know. But once I educated myself, because again, I wanted to learn to love myself wholly and completely, and my hair is a part of that. So once I educated myself on how to properly care for my hair, oh, it's endless. I love my hair.
So how did your mindset, how did you change that? How did you overcome that?
That came through self-healing of my self-image because again, growing up with grandparents or some of these comments, I feel like I tied my identity to my identifier. And because of doing that, I did not know how to separate the two. And because I lived with that for so long, and of course other traumas, all of it just gets mixed together in a whole bundle. And so trying to unwrap those layers of who you are and learning you love every part of you. You don't pick and choose which parts of you to love. The good, the bad, and the ugly all make us who we are. Even that trauma that I'm speaking of, that that gave me the power to stand up and say, girl, love your hair, love yourself, and show other women that it's okay to love themselves too. So then it became more about a statement, a personal statement, other than this is trauma that I've dealt with. So now I wear it proudly because it's a sign of healing for me.
I think a lot of it for me, I recently made a video about, what comes easy to someone can be challenging for someone else, and everyone learns at their different pace, and you don't know anyone's story or their mental health story. You don't know where they are in their life. And so a lot of it for me is if you have something to say about someone's hair, I think it's important to really be careful about your delivery. And I'm always going to be an advocate for, if you're not going to create a safe space, someone's not going to respond in a safe space way. They're not going to be honest with you. They'll protect themselves first. So I feel like you won't ever be able to really understand someone if you come at them in a way of like an assumption, right? Like I'm looking at, if I didn't know Jessica, I can't just go like, oh, she's wearing a wig, she hates herself. I don't know anything about her. And social media cracks me up because people think they know their entire life story based off of a video. So, at the end of the day, it's important that your assumptions really just need to be put back there, and you can have them, that's fine. But to voice them and to target someone and to think that you know everything about them is incorrect. And so when I see people wearing wigs, that is never my thought. I'm never like, oh, like she definitely hates herself. I have no idea. And I love to wear wigs in a sense of like, I genuinely love to just try things. I'm like, okay, for my, my rehearsal dinner, I wore a straight wig. I hadn't seen my hair straight in years, and it was fun. You don't know. You never know what someone's going through. So I think it's another thing is just that delivery is important. If you want to talk to someone, talk to them in a place of like, I want to hear your story. Tell me more. Not, why are you wearing a wig? First of all, hold on. Whoa. I think that's intense and overbearing. So a lot of it, I think, too, if you want to know, just ask, but create a safe space to do so.
I think it's 3 points that I want to make. First, I think a woman of confidence, she's wearing her confidence in a different way. So yeah, you don't want to judge, but you can kind of get that feeling whether or not that wig is hiding other things or not. And I'm not going to judge you whether you have a wig or not on. But what I do want to, like Jessica said, if you're depending on that wig or you're depending on that weave.
Like you won't leave the house.
Right. Then there's another level of discussion we need to have. There's another level of what is it that you don't like that you think that wig is filling the gap for? I think the other thing is that where my point is with my product, are you destroying your hair by depending on the wig and depending on the weave or because no matter what, there's a lot of chemicals and some bad stuff. I'm not a wig wearer mainly because I couldn't leave it on very long because I'm so allergic to it. Oh. Like the itching and the scaling and even with the braids, I love to wear my box braids and faux locks and all of that. But the hair that is coming from overseas, it's so laden with lead and formaldehyde and everything else. And it was like, okay, every time I put it on, my body would have a reaction. So it's like something else is going on here. But there's a lot of us that will ignore that, ignore our body telling us to not do that. And then we end up sacrificing our hair follicles, and then we're in a perpetual cycle.
And then you have to wear the
Then
wig.
you have to wear the wig. So then it's that thing too, to be like, okay, am I sacrificing the health of my body in order for my vanity?
Okay, so we kind of talked about mothers and the image that they set for their daughters, but let's talk about the Black community as a whole. Sometimes, and I believe the saying is it be your own. I specifically remember Living Single is one of my favorite shows. There was a specific episode, I don't know if you remember, Kyle. I believe he's a stockbroker or an accountant. He was trying to get a very big account. His two bosses, there was three counterparts. There were two white guys and there was a Black guy. His name was Lawrence. Apparently they had a conversation without Kyle about his hair, because I think at the time he was growing like the little dreads. His two white bosses were okay. Come to find out, Lawrence was the one that told him that he needed to change his hair. So we talked about mothers, but like I said, I want to bring it to the entire community. Sometimes it seems like it's coming from within, because for me, all of my crazy comments have come from Black people. A white person has never said anything to me about my hair. As a matter of fact, they're intrigued and they have questions. So we talked about the mothers, but what about just the Black community in general? Ceata?
I think we have a ways to go. I think like I said, there's a lot of residue there. And I think we have to be better to do better. I have 3 sons. Two of them have locks, and one wants to grow locks, but I'm not going to let him, just because he can't pay for them for himself yet. He's going to be in my pocket deep, and I got to get my locks redone. But I believe that, and it's actually, let me start over. With my 3 sons, I listen to them talk, okay? And the oldest 2 are 22, and the youngest is 13. It's so interesting to me that all 3 of them cannot stand with weaves or extensions, fake hair, any of that.
But is that how you raised them, though?
That's what I was going to say. I don't know if that's me.
Okay.
Because I've never been anti-fake hair, because it's just one of the things I couldn't do myself.
Okay.
I've worn a wig now and there just to spice it up, have your alter ego or whatever. But I probably did. I'm not going to say it's not an extension of me, but I think kids that are younger have way less. They're not as pigeonholed into their thinking. They think a lot wider than we do, and they're accepting of a lot more.
Yes.
Than I am, right? Because even now, like when they meet somebody new, I'm like, well, what is she? And they're like, she's a human. And I'm like, I know, is she white or Black? And they're like, well, what does that even matter? And I'm sitting up and like, you know what, you're right. It doesn't matter. But they're helping to teach me to have a broader and open mind. But to say that, to go back to that, for them to be, one of their sayings is they see so many girls talking about protective styles, and they're like, you need to be protected from your protected style. And I'm like, wow. But I am proud of them that they've set the standard for themselves, and they want a they want a mate who embraces themselves naturally. And it's just intriguing to me that they think that way. Now, what was the original question?
That is.
Oh, do we do it as a society? Right.
We're just so deep in conversation.
As a Black culture, I think we are our own worst enemy. There's so much judgment within the culture itself that I know we need to do more in terms of uplifting each other, and just having this right here, just having this open conversation is the way to start to manage and control and take back the narrative, right? Because I believe there was at one time where we didn't have this issue. It may have been before we even came to this country, but there has been a time where we didn't have this issue. And we can squash this issue, but we have to be very, very open and accepting and receptive and listening to our own stories and finding how we identify with each other and giving each other support within that. Because I'm looking at these two ladies and I'm like, you all are both beautiful. You are absolutely beautiful. But I remember that third point. When I do talk to women, because yes, hair is one of the things we do notice on people, but I make sure to say, you are beautiful. And by the way, I love your hair. Because I don't want to start, ooh, your hair is great. Because that negates, in your mind, it negates everything. It could negate everything else about you. Yeah. But it's one of those things, it's like, we have to hear ourselves. And because our words have power. And I think we have to be very purposeful in our words. So that's one of the things that I've made sure for myself to be like, the Holy Spirit puts it in my mind to say something to somebody, I'm saying it. Because I never know what that person may need, and I never know what that person may have to give back to me.
I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here. You're married, I'm married. Jessica, are you dating?
Yes.
Okay. Have you noticed? No. Because I'm beginning to notice a trend as well. And since you're dating, these women are taking it, I am as well. Have you noticed that there are Black men who will wear their hair natural, whether it's I think it's the sprush or whatever it is. Yeah. They have locks, they wear their hair natural, but they will not date women who are natural.
Yes,
That's a real thing?
Definitely.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Really? Oh, yes. There are men out there who...
They all voted against Kamala too, didn't they?
That's another topic for another day. And I'll leave that at that. But they are out there. And actually, I was married, for 11 years. But yes, that's a thing. There are men, like I've had somebody literally DM me, like when I've shown pictures of my hair, like natural, like after a fresh wash, and me like fully clothed, going out with my natural hair, and a guy has literally said, hey, you need to straighten your hair. Your hair looks a mess.
He DM'd you this?
Yes.
That means he's felt strongly about this.
He wasn't going to say it to her face.
Okay.
No, that's not true. That's not true. That is not true. When I was in college, I had someone
oh, yeah.
Yes.
No, I've had somebody tell me that. Nobody that it was like going to date. It was a friend of, and I was like, you're not my husband, so I don't really care what you have to say. But.
Okay, but it really is a thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Have you ever had a person outside of that individual who DM'd you, someone that you showed some interest in? Have they ever told you that to your face, or have they just said straight up, I'm sorry?
So I haven't dated a whole lot of people.
No, I'm not trying to make you seem like
But I have had an experience with someone who I was kind of like building a friendship with, say that as what he thought was jokingly. And to me, I was like, that's not a joke. You know what I mean? Saying stuff like, oh, why don't you go get your hair blowed out?
There's something to that.
You know
Even though it was in a joking manner,
yes.
Did he keep asking you that, or he kept?
Because it was said various times. And so to me, that tells me that you have an issue with Black women. Whether you're aware of it or not, subconsciously you have an issue with, or Black women and their hair. Because for you to idealize or in your mind say, okay, this is what a woman should look like to be put together, then that tells me that there's been some conditioning on your end too, which goes back, kind of touches back on the society as a whole. I think that, especially for African American people, not saying that other cultures have not experienced this, but I do think that hatred towards one another, that's a seed that's been planted. And it's easy when you don't know who you are to be told who you are. But when you know who you are, you can stand in that, and as the people say now, stand on business. So I think that men alike as women, hearing things, being conditioned to certain things, whether it be the workplace, whatever it is, somehow in their mind, some men have gotten that idea like, oh, your hair needs to look like this. Like, and that's absolutely ludicrous. Like, that's crazy, because you shouldn't tell a woman who they are. And that makes me think that you don't know who you are, because you came from a Black woman. You came from a woman whose hair looks like mine, so for you to say something like that, it tells me that you have an issue with your identity.
Absolutely. That's actually a perfect segue to the other two ladies. Crazy comments and/or experiences. Allie, what crazy comments, what crazy experience do you have about your hair? I know you have some.
I'll say, like, I think the craziest thing was when I was in line shopping, and it was the guy at the checkout that was handling the cashier, and I walked up there and he immediately asked if my hair was real, and I said yes, and then he said, "Nah, lift your bangs." And there was a line of people behind me, and they were all white women, so they were like, "What do you mean?" Like, they were, "Lift what?" Like, everyone was like, "What is happening?" First of all, the moment that happened, though, the day I was having, I was not doing well. So
He signed up for it. Right.
He tipped you over.
He did. But it was one of those moments where I was like, I can either let this man stir me up and make my day worse, or I can really, let him know it's not going to affect me. I looked at him and I said, I am not going to do that. And he was like, kind of doubted me, like, well, then it's not real. And I'm like, that's fine.
But it's the fact that he was so comfortable to ask.
He was so comfortable, and it really just caught me off guard, because at that point, I've never had anyone ask me to do that. Like, prove it. I've had people say, like, that's a wig, still to this day, it's not real. And what really kills me is people being like, she's on social media lying to you, like, you can see the lace. And I'm like, this is unhealthy. Like, it really kills me. But, for someone to doubt me after I've told you, yes, one, and then two, ask me to lift my bangs and prove it, was like, I was beside myself. But I mean, it was one of those days where, and someone was like, you should have asked to get the manager. And I was like, I'm telling you right now, I pick and choose my battles, and I'll tell people this, because the day I was having, that was not the time. It really wasn't. I needed to get home, just know. But I was like, in my way, I did my due diligence in not giving him the pleasure of me proving myself. And you could tell he was embarrassed because I said no. So, but that's probably the craziest.
Ceata, I know you have one.
I'm just tripping off of her.
Lift your bangs.
Lift your bang.
That's bold.
It's very bold. That's very bold.
It's like the fact that you think that you're that comfortable with me that you, wow. I mean,
Or that I owe you anything.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It was, yes.
he signed that check. You should have just cashed it, honestly. But I've had some. I think the craziest one probably was when I first transitioned. But like I said, this was way before the curly revolution and all of that, the curly journey. And I was at church, and one of my husband's best friends, and this is when I did the TWA, so I cut it all off. And he was like, I just want you to know I liked your hair before. And just kind of like an aside drive-by comment. And
It's in casual conversation, like that was.
no, he knew what he was doing. He knew what he was doing, and he thought he was making a point, but it was like, first of all, I didn't ask. I love you, but I really don't care that you liked my hair before. And this is about me, it's not about you. So here I am, almost 20 years later, still rocking my natural hair, so.
I would say for me, the craziest one, because I was literally minding my own business. I was sitting downtown Charlotte, Blaze Pizza. This man runs in. Now, mind you, this is an eatery, right? I'm sitting there eating my pizza. He makes a beeline for me. He completely passes the line. He taps on me, and he was like, you are so gorgeous, but I could never date you because you have natural hair.
And?
But it just caught me so off
Yeah, I thought that's what you would have said to him.
I'm looking like where?
And? Are you serious?
But I didn't get a chance because then he walked away.
So what? People are crazy. People are crazy. Are you serious?
Yes. But it caught me so off guard, and then he just walked away.
That's the part where I'm like, what was your goal?
What was the
He
goal?
walked away was like, I want to make her feel bad.
I just want to drop this bomb on her. Right. Are you kidding me?
And he was natural. He had dreads.
Ooh, there's so much more you could have said to him while he was on the way out.
But it caught me so off guard.
Right,
though.
right.
And then you didn't even wait for a reaction. You
Right.
walked away.
Because he didn't want a reaction.
True.
He wanted to leave you in.
What you think it was? He wanted to drop that in there.
Right, and then, right.
Okay, so Ceata, corporate. I remember we were having a conversation and you talked about, and it can be briefly, but we talked about you've had conversations or you've been in the rooms with C-suite women who don't feel comfortable, beautiful, or they don't feel like they can be accomplished or they won't be taken seriously. You've been in those rooms, right? I remember from our conversation. That is really a thing. There are Black women who truly feel like they're not seen, they're not heard, they won't be taken seriously, they can't be accomplished. Especially because when you start going, like C-suite is CEO, you're an executive. There are really women that are saying these things and they are willing to, whether it's straighten their hair, get a silk press every 2 weeks, there are really women who feel this way.
There are definitely women that feel this way, that feel that way. And the thing is, I believe it's more of a counterpart issue than it is how they are seen amongst each other, than it is actually the raising, like their executives that they're with.
So this kind of goes back to the living single Kyle and Lauren's situation. So this is amongst them.
Yes, and I've had comments from women that say that, it wasn't my white counterparts that said anything to me. It was my Black counterpart.
Are these above, the same, or below?
It could be lateral or subordinate. It's all around, but they're saying it's not really, from what I understand, it's not. I think it might be in the minds of other executives that are not of color, but they won't say it. But other executives that are of color, they feel bold enough or emboldened to say something.
Do you think the reason why they say something is that they may think that looks bad on them?
That's a good question. I always count it back to jealousy of some type. For me, I don't know. Because it's like, you're not helping me with that comment. What is it that may be lacking in you that you feel like you need to address this with me? That's what I often wonder. Because my thing is, if you're at that level, you all need to be lift as we climb at that point, right? So and it may be a subconscious thing. It's one of those things that I'd like to dig into more, to have those conversations, because those conversations I feel are there and they need to be had and they want to have those conversations, but there's a certain level of fear and intimidation that they don't have, the safe space to have those conversations.
So in Fort Mill, there was a former stylist that I was going to just for trims. I do all of my hair care in the house. I was going with her, and I just flat out asked her, I said, what is the deal? And she told me a lot of her CC clients are just people who are in corporate. They will come to her every 2 weeks for wash, blow dry, and press and curl, or press.
They'll say a straight natural.
A straight, that made me sound old. Anyway, she just flat out told me they just don't feel comfortable. They don't feel comfortable. They don't feel seen. They don't feel like they can be successful. They don't feel like they can go up in their career. So, Allie, have you noticed anything, or do you have any experience with corporate?
When I was in corporate, my first job out of college was an accounting firm. And I was the only Black person there. There was no people of color at all. So that was something I immediately noticed, and I was a little anxious. But I remember the comments were more curiosity at my first job, which made me uncomfortable because I would switch up my hairstyles or I would get braids and they would be like,
whoa, how did you do that? You grew all that hair last night.
Yes, and make it a thing, And so I was like, I don't want to be like
Center of attention, right?
Yeah, and so as I transitioned into other roles, I noticed, which we talked about previously, was a role where we went to a lake house because it was a property management role, and I ended up not wanting to go on the boat ride because I was in a conversation and I didn't want to stop talking to this person, so I just politely said no thank you, but the guy screamed at me from across on the boat and was just like, oh, do you not want to get your hair wet? And was just like, I know how it can be for you. And I was like, I gotta go home. Immediately I was like, this is not a safe space. Like, I cannot do it. And it was a smaller workplace too, which made it even more difficult. So it was just, it's the sly, like, microaggression comments for me that really just get to me. But I feel like a lot of it too was, I've been told my hair is too much and it's distracting, and that when it's wet, it's much prettier because it lays. So like there's different, so there's different things.
Did you ever feel like your ability to do your job was called into question?
Yes, because I was my hair in the workplace.
Okay.
And that made it difficult. So there were days where I would put it in a bun. I mean, I just would like slick it down. Yeah, just so I could, or if I was meeting with like other executives.
You would pull your hair back.
Yeah, just because I just didn't want anyone to like make it a thing or like take away from like why I'm there in the first place. And so I did have those moments, and and also like wanting to sign to an agency, I got excited and they turned me down because they were like, you got to make your hair small. And I was like,
Do you feel like they wanted you to be smaller in general?
That's what it felt like. I was like, I don't understand. I don't know. They were like, you need to make your hair smaller. And I'm like, what? So it was, but younger Allie would have done that for sure. And so I've grown a lot, and now I'm okay, being like a villain in someone's story, which I've talked about with her, because I'm like, if you want to make me out to be a bad person because I'm not going to change the way I was born for your comfort, then like, that's okay. But that was hard because I wanted to make my money so I could live, and so that was very challenging. So corporate was stressful. And then I had those moments of like, I was accidentally on an IM chat in a group chat where they forgot to remove me and they were talking badly about me. And so I took a screenshot, went to the boss who was talking badly about me, and I put it on her desk and I said, yeah, this will be my last day. And luckily I told HR about it, and they said I didn't have to work my last 2 weeks. So they were just like, we'll pay you. And I was like,
Because they didn't want a lawsuit.
they did not want a lawsuit. So, corporate stressed me out, and I hate that it even was a thing, but I'm in a place now where I'm like, I'm here to do my job, and I do work, for myself, and I also work for my family business and helping my parents retire, and I'm grateful to be in this position. But if I had to start over somewhere else, I'm gonna be walking there with my head held high and let them know real quick, like, what's that? Because absolutely not.
Jessica, so you are a fitness and you are a musician.
Yes.
Did you ever work in corporate?
Yeah, absolutely.
Story?
I've never had like a personal experience that jumps out in my mind, but I have heard other women make comments about themselves. One comment that in particular that sticks out is I've heard an African-American woman or Black woman say, oh, my hair would look more professional if I straighten it.
To you or other?
To me, yeah. It's like she said, oh, I'm gonna straighten my hair because I feel like it'll look more professional.
I've heard that.
And I am like, what makes you think that? Like why would you, yes, who wrote that rule that having straighter hair is more professional? Because this is our hair, like this is what we were born with. So, that saddens me because the fact that she sees herself as needing to shrink to be professional, is really sad. That tells me that someone at some point has told her or conditioned her to think that your hair is not acceptable as is.
Right.
And needs to be modified.
Right. And we do also want to acknowledge, like Ceata brought up a little bit past, and then we'll move on. We do want also to acknowledge that back then we did have to have a certain look, or we did have to straighten our hair in order to have a front-facing job. But we're past that.
Yes,
we are so past that. All right. Special events and pivotal moments. For those of you who are not on social media, there was a young woman by the name of Chloe. She is a personality. Back in 2023, she made the statement, "Do not bring your natural hair to my event." She went viral. The responses were not good, but her statement, because I did a commentary video on my channel, on my YouTube channel, and going back when I had to do my commentary, at first I was mad. I wanted to cuss her out. I wanted to gather her and tell her about herself, but then I became sad because there was something in her life that happened. Someone said something to her, and there was some type of experience. So I remember when I was getting married, there was an individual who asked me right away, was I going to straighten my hair? And before I could say anything, Mama Bear told me she's not doing that. And Allie, you and I spoke about weddings. You wore your afro. But there is this narrative out there that when it comes to very pivotal moments in our lives, I even remember hearing someone talk about they had to do their daughter's hair for a funeral. That was the first time I heard that. But is there any experience, and Jessica, we can start with you, where you felt like your hair had to be straight or it had to look a certain way?
Yes, and I would say that like for my wedding, back when I got married, I did wear weave because I felt like in my mind I thought, okay, this is like a special day. Like I don't want my hair to poof, or I don't want, you get what I'm saying? Like immediately I'm thinking, I don't want it to look crazy in my photos because that's how I,
Saw
myself. Like I thought that my hair had to be straight and needed to be pinned up in order for it to fit the photos, for the memories to come. The good thing is that my husband at the time, like, ironically, I did actually go natural right after my wedding because he was like, I love your natural hair. He was like, I wish you would wear it more. He's like, your natural hair is actually very beautiful. And he was like, I think you should stop putting that mess in your hair. And I was like, you're right. You get what I'm saying? Like, and that made me feel, actually that moment made me feel more comfortable with exploring options on how to care for my hair.
Allie?
Yeah, I mean, my graduation for my bachelor's, I pinned straight and I made sure, like I was frying my hair, running that straightening over, like I was not playing around, and I knew that I could not have any poofiness. Like anytime I heard the word poof, I would just be triggered because that was all I heard. Like growing up, it was like, it's so poofy. Like my hair was never really pinned straight unless I had that relaxers done. And then I stopped relaxing and it would still straighten it and it would just like grow, especially in the humidity. So I was so embarrassed all the time. And so I was like, not today. Also, it's my graduation. So, full circle. And I got my master's. I was like, oh, I'm not putting like product in my hair. We're rocking a fro, like frizz. I don't even care. Like I made sure that my hair is like natural. Like I'm not gonna try to fix it. We're just gonna rock the graduation cap. And I used grad cap remix, and because I was trying to figure out how to tape the my graduation cap to the headband, and it ended up working out. And they had the tool to do it, and I did it. And I was like, this was full circle moment for me because I was so ashamed of my hair when I graduated from college, my bachelor's, that I knew with my master's, like I did not want to feel like that on a day like that. That was very important to me. So I was making sure to rock it then. And my wedding, same thing. I said, frizzed out. I don't care. Like we were partying it up with my hair, and it's gonna be round, and she's gonna do whatever she does, and I'm gonna celebrate her and myself. So, and I decorated it with some flowers, butterflies. I'm always gonna put something like, and have fun. And like it's such a fun way to show your personality with your color, which I love.
Thank you.
And so,
You know how you feel about bleach.
girl, ooh, we don't need to talk about it. I did. Oh my God, I love bleach. Ooh, I was bleaching everything, like bleach. And then I got to slow it down, but I did. Like, and now I'm like, okay, we're done. We're done with the bleach. I still dream about her sometimes though. When I see Pinterest photos, I'm like, look at those.
There's good bleach and there's bad bleach. I did notice that. I did find that out.
Yeah, so, we're behaving.
You're behaving now? All right. Ceata, what about you?
No, I have not had an instance where I felt like I needed to straighten my hair. I think ever since I've been natural, I am so much more daring. And it's actually very liberating.
It is.
It is so freeing that I can just walk outside when it's raining and not give a damn that it's raining. I am just like, it just feels good. It just feels good that I don't have to have that extra worry on top of it. I did have to learn that I couldn't keep, because in the beginning I was like, bleach it, braid it. Yeah, then you have to learn that, okay, even though you're not relaxing it, our hair is still fragile. And it does take it. Water and moisture is your friend, not your enemy, when you've been taught that for so long when we were younger, not to let water. But water inside and out is just, your BFF, period. So, yeah, I'm looking for, like, even right now, I want my locks to get longer. I'm just really wanting them to get longer so I can style them more and do more creative things with
Ornate
it.
styles.
Yes, ornate styles. But it's just, natural hair is just, it's wonderful. Anybody that resists it, I like, let's just have a
try
conversation.
it.
Just try it. Now, that transition, you do need to have a nappy cheerleader to go with it.
Oh, no, you are going to have an awkward phase.
Oh, girl.
Light at the end of
There's
the tunnel.
so much
I
light.
promise.
There's
I
so much
promise.
light.
I
so
promise.
much light, yes.
Social media, Hollywood, I feel like, especially nowadays, because social media and technology is everywhere. social media can shape someone's perception of reality, or it can play a part in how someone views the world. With you being a musician, when it comes to your audience, when it comes to producers, managers, has there been anyone who has kind of pushed you for a certain look? And the reason I'm bringing that up is because I am a former watcher of Love and Hip Hop Miami. um, my favorite person was Amada La Negra. She considers herself to be an Afro-Latina. I remember a moment when her then manager told her, listen, in order for your career to move forward, you have to get rid of the afro. So if you're not aware of who she is, she basically looks like Allie. She's a little bit darker. Both of y'all are gorgeous, but she wore she wore afro on purpose. But her manager flat out told her, in order for your career to progress, you have to straighten your hair. This is not working. Have you ever ran into that? Have you ever felt like that? Have you ever heard of that?
Thank goodness I've never had that experience with my hair. I have had that experience with just overall appearance, where they've tried to say, okay, well, you may need to sell a little bit more of this and be a little bit more of that. And for me, I've always, if I can't be who I am at my core, then it's not for me. The opportunity is not for me, because I think a lot of people in the industry now, and this is like an even deeper conversation, end up committing suicide. They end up on drugs because of identity crisis. Because again, because you don't know who you are, you have someone driving you in a direction that is opposite to what resonates with your soul. And anytime you do that, you are going to die inside, because you're literally killing the core of who your highest self is. And no one should ever have that kind of power over you, no matter what. I truly am a believer that the opportunities that are meant for you will be for you without you having to compromise who you are.
I love that. So I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second. Ceata, when it came to you inventing the puff cuff, I'm going to assume that when you were in board meetings and when you were asking for funds, that you were mainly dealing with Caucasian people?
So, let me.
And the reason why I'm
wasn't in
asking,
corporate. I've never really been in corporate.
okay, but you, as far as being a CEO of a company and for funding and things like
Oh,
that,
yes. Okay.
I'm
I see what
asking
you're saying.
because
Yes.
when you're asking for that money, did people see value in what you were trying
Oh,
to
heck
do?
to the nah.
Okay.
No, because they didn't understand. They
Right.
didn't understand. They still don't understand how much, and they don't value the black dollar, point blank. So they have no clue. Even right now, funding for me is almost it's. I'm in a difficult place within my business right now, trying to decide if I continue or not, because it has been almost impossible for me to get an investor, even though my product can be used by 65% of the world's population. Even being a black business that's a tool, not a consumable. Everybody has a consumable. Being a tool is a totally different ballgame in terms of a small business and bringing your product and keeping your product in the market. And then social media right now, it's again layers to this, but and it's not just me. It is not just me. There are so many other small businesses that are owned by black and brown women, men too, but mostly women, because we're the ones starting businesses like, way more often than any other race. We're totally underfunded, under-resourced, under everything. And we are creating products that aren't necessarily only for black people. These are products that are, we are engineers. Women are engineers, period, naturally. We look at stuff and we like, okay, we could do this better if we had this. You know what? I figured out a way to do this better. And we do that in our natural lives. Just a lot of us don't. Some of us don't bring those ideas, to market or whatever. But we're natural fixers. We figure out stuff. And but we're undervalued in terms of what we bring forth to the world.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree. All right, we're going to move on to this next question. And I think for me, because we said that we were going to be open and honest, I think for me, there's a little bit of self reflection for myself. I'm starting with you, Jessica, and just a general question to you, ladies. The way that you wear your hair, do you wear your hair to let people know that you are Black or that you identify as Black?
That's a very interesting question.
I'm glad you got it first.
And the reason why, and I guess I'll just go first. And my mother and I had this conversation all the time. The reason why I'm talking about it is because by trade, I was an independent adjuster and I used to travel. I was in Texas and I was in a very secluded area with a lot of Middle Eastern and Indian individuals. I was in Walmart. I'm minding my own business. I'm taking things off the shelf, and there is an Indian man staring me down. I said, okay, maybe he's having a bad day. I go to another aisle, and it happens again. I said, maybe they're having a bad day as well. But it happens a third time. I said, okay, there's something to this. So then, funny enough, I was on break. I go to an Indian restaurant, and there's a wife, a husband, and 2 children sitting right here. The husband is eating his food, and the children can't see me. The wife is staring me down. It was at that point that I realized, okay, she thinks I'm a mutt. She thinks that someone from their community had relations with, because I mean,
They're trying to figure out you out.
It kept happening.
Okay.
And the reason why I'm saying that and the reason why I'm asking y'all that question is because outside of heat damage, I don't typically wear my hair straight. And I think now having conversations like this, the reason why I don't, outside of heat damage, is because I want people to know that I'm Black or that I'm fully Black. Because as my community grows, I keep getting questions about what I am. And it's typically Black and Indian. So that's why I was asking the question. So I probably should have given the backstory, but that's why I'm asking you that.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting question. I can't say that I've ever purposely worn my hair a certain way to prove that I'm Black, but I have had questions of people asking me, "What are you?" Because of the texture
Yes.
of my hair. My curls are, I mean, my hair is, it's tight curls, but they're not super, super tight. So a lot of times I get that question of, oh, you know, the good hair, good
Yes.
texture thing, as we mentioned earlier. Or another thing is because I actually speak Spanish, people will immediately be like, "What are you?" And I'm like, I'm Black. I'm Black, you know, definitely Black, fully and truly. So that's the only experience I've had in that perspective. I can't necessarily say that I've ever, that I was ever in a position or where I had to prove that I was, but through the way I wore my hair.
I think for me, my biggest want growing up was I want to be able just to I want to embrace my hair proudly in the state that it was like meant to be. So like as is. Like I don't want to ever feel like I have to buy 1,000 products or make my hair lay down or make sure that it's not too much or, you know, and I especially with like frizz, which is so interesting that so many brands and products are like pushing like anti-frizz, definition. And I love that. But I don't want people, there's people that genuinely think frizz is just damage, and that breaks my heart. And I'm like, okay, we're getting away from the plot here. Your hair is, the thing about it, and I say name your hair, is for a reason. Because I'm like, hello, Tina. You need to get to know your hair. Spend time with your hair. Like, you know, when you take care of one another, you learn so much when you treat it the way you want to be treated as a person. How do you want someone else to treat you? You treat your hair that way. And it's gonna be, you know, it's like sisters and besties, and y'all are gonna fight, but you are gonna learn so much about your hair, and you're gonna learn to love it without having to feel the need to prove something or to manipulate it. Or, you know, before you walk out the door, you're not gonna spend time being like, shoot, like, oh no, it's too frizzy, or it's like puffing up, or, you know, it doesn't look right. You're gonna be so much more confident in how your hair is and as is. And for me, when I'm wearing it, I am proud of my frizz. I'm proud of it being poofy and puffy. You know, I used to hate when someone said that. And now I'm like, oh, it's puffy? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And I'm proud of that because I'm like, that's just my hair. If that's what it wants to, that's the way I was born, that's the way I was made, then absolutely, like, yes. But I think for me, I want people to know I am proud of who I am, you know, regardless of my background. black, white, this is this is how I was born. It's not like I can sit here and try to rewrite history and take it back. I can only move forward with what I know and who I am and walk boldly in my power. And that's what I tell people to do always. As long as you're proud of who you are and you're unapologetic and you're not apologizing for it and you're not trying to make yourself smaller or dim your light for the comfort of others, then do the thing, you don't need to prove yourself to anybody. You just need to prove yourself to you. That's it, period. So you need to show up and show out, take up space.
I have not had to do that myself, but my sister, I have two sisters. No, no, you're definitely not alone. You're definitely, and it was interesting because I have my younger sister who is, we have different fathers, but she's very, very fair. And she has very slanted eyes, but she has her hair is kinkier than mine. And when she was, to this day, she'll go places and people will stare at her. And just like you were saying, and she would be like, what is happening? And I'm like, it's like they're trying to, I'm letting you know they're trying to figure out what you are. And she's like, what do you mean? It's like, because you're very light skinned, you have slanted eyes, and your hair gives it away that you're black. So she's gotten more confident in herself. She's 10 years younger than me. She's gotten more confident in herself, but she used to experience that too. And now she has locks, so it really is
So people are really confused.
Right, really are super confused, right. And then I have discovered an older sister by doing Ancestry.com. And she is also very fair-skinned and has very silkier textured curls, very loose, finer curls. I thought I looked like my dad until we found her, and she looks exactly like. But it's interesting because I say this all to say I found her on Ancestry. She got on Ancestry because she wanted to prove to the family that she was raised with that she was black. Because she was so light, but all of her cousins and all of her, were very dark. And they used to tease her and harass her, saying, you're white, you're half white, you gotta be half white. She's not half white, because my dad might be kind of white. There's more white in him, but she got majority of the whiteness. But to say all that, she's still black, but it's like, you have a woman who is grown trying to prove to her family that she's black and goes on Ancestry.com. So I can relate to, it didn't happen to me personally, but I can definitely relate to what you're saying.
Okay, so in this group, it's just me, which is fine. And this is why I love having these conversations. But like I said, when I first asked the question, this is a moment of reflection for me. I love big hair. Allie, your hair, everybody's hair right here is gorgeous. But I think for me, and clearly it made an impression on me because I'm talking about it now, but it let me know that maybe I don't always sometimes wear my hair straight because when I wear my hair straight, that's when I get the questions. And then, like I said, we talked about before, when I tell you I'm black, are you sure? Okay, well, what was your grandmother? So I'm not saying that I'm going to wear my hair straight more. I just wanted to have that.
I think it's because you're beautiful.
Thank you.
People are just staring at you because you're beautiful.
Well, it was blatant though. It was just in that area, it was all of them. So,
well, that was their problem.
And I mean, to speak to that, you wearing your hair straight or not, it should always be your choice.
Absolutely.
Nothing or no one should put you in a position to where you're questioning how to wear your hair because they're staring at you, or because how we wear our hair is absolutely our choice.
Oh, absolutely.
If you choose to wear it in an afro, if you choose to wear it curly, if you choose to wear it in braids, however you choose to wear it, as long as you're not tying it to your identity and tearing yourself down because of it, wear it however you want.
But I think for me, I equate wearing my hair straight with the questions. And that's why it's like, no, I don't feel like doing that. So.
Now I can say before I had my hair locked, I would feel some kind of way wearing it big like Allie is wearing hers because people would stare.
Yes.
And for me, I'm just like, you're just doing your own thing, and all of a sudden you look up and somebody's locking eyes with you. Yeah. And I'm like, is it, what's happening? But then it's like, they keep on staring. And I had to ask my husband, I was like,
something.
why are these people staring?
But if you're going to do it blatantly, say something.
They're not going to say anything. There's never enough bravery unless they get on social and then they say something. But I had to look at it. I mean, he literally like just brought me down. It's not you, it's your hair, but it's them thinking and being enamored with you.
Okay, I can take that.
Yeah, you just like, because I look good. Okay, right. They staring. All right.
I can accept that. All right, ladies, we are coming to the end of our conversation, but I just wanted to touch on one point. And Ceata, we can start with you. Where do we go from here? How do we change it? We've come far, but we still have a long way to go. In your opinion, where do we go from here? How can we change it?
The first thing I would say is there's power in your words. Watch what you say, watch how you say it, hear what you say. Because you want to know that how it can affect someone, positive or negative. What comes up in your head doesn't always need to come out your mouth. Let it marinate a little bit before it comes out. Because I mean, all of us want to be uplifted. And I think we have to, just like the N-word, take that power back. That's not something that we have to do. It's one of those things that we give power to words that should not have the power that they have. So that's one of the things, is like, that's the first thing, is definitely realize the power of your words, and then realize we all come from our own biases or whatever, but we do not have to perpetuate it.
Show up as the example you wish to see more of would be my biggest thing. And I feel like we underestimate the power of showing up, even if you're uncomfortable because you impact someone without realizing it. The amount of people that have approached me to say, like, thank you, like, you inspired me, or mothers that with their daughters saying, my daughter saw your hair curly and I know now she can do that too. It's those things that I know I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But at the end of the day too, if you're someone who's still learning to love your hair, I'm gonna piggy off of this, you have got to stop talking badly about yourself. And I will say, in order, if you feel like the only way to feel seen is to feed into that negative connotation that my hair texture is not good, or like I have like a difficult texture and like it's the worst, if the only way you feel seen is by feeding into that, there needs to be a time and moment of reflection, and we need to dissect it. We don't need to feed it, because all you're doing is feeding that fire, which is only burning brighter, and you don't want to let that consume you, because that will become your entire identity. I have difficult hair is not an identity that needs to belong to anybody. That is something that society has placed, that they're hoping, that you'll continue to live in, because a lot of people can profit off it. And I don't feel like that's a space that we need to put ourselves in. And I think at the end of the day, it's what you're repeating to yourself in the mirror that's gonna count. And I know it can suck, and it feels like if you look in the mirror and you say, I love my hair, and you don't feel it, you're saying it. You gotta allow the time to do its job, and build that relationship, have fun with it, name your hair and make it a fun thing, joke about it, do whatever you need to do, but you do not need to be tearing yourself down in order to feel like you're being seen. And I've seen a lot of people jump onto those bandwagons of like, well, she says her hair is hard, and we have the same hair, so that's where I belong. It's not where you belong. That is not where you belong. You need to remember your power. We all have it, but I think a lot of us feel like we can't speak on it or show it because you're gonna feel like you're stepping on someone else's toes, or you feel like you don't deserve it. But at the end of the day, you deserve it more than anything, and you need to be kind to yourself and kind to your hair. And I know it can be done. It's not an easy journey, so I don't ever want to hear people say like, just love your hair. It's not how it works, but it's a process.
It's a process.
Yeah, it's a process that you need to be patient. That's why I'm always saying, give yourself grace. My goodness, you don't have to do it overnight, but like, don't let it go.
And it won't come overnight. That's the other thing. It will not.
Yeah, it's a journey, but that's why I'm always tell people, if you ever feel like you just need someone to remind you, I'm always like, just DM me, or email me. I have Zoom calls with people coming up just to remind them, like, you're hurting, girl, I got you. Like, let's talk about it. It's fine. So it's just one of those things where, for me though, if you want people to start wearing their natural hair, show up as the example.
Jessica?
I'd say the number one thing it's going to start with is self love and knowing who you are. Because if it's not your hair, it's going to be something else. So if you learn to love who you are completely, then you'll walk with power in spaces that celebrate you. And to know that you really have the power to control it because you don't have to stay anywhere where you're not celebrated. You have the choice to get up and move. Get up and leave, because the truth is like when I think about society, bringing attention to it is great, but the truth of the matter is people are going to think the way they want to think, regardless of what you say, regardless of if you bring attention to it. So the only way we truly have the power to change it is by learning to love ourselves and standing on business about your hair, about your morals, about your values. When you do that, then you let people know, I don't care what you're saying. I'm going to be who I am and I'm going to shine and stand in that power and own it. And that's what it's about. It's about owning who you are, regardless of what people say or people's opinions or what they think or they're not paying your bills. You know what I mean? They don't help you breathe. They didn't create you. God created you and you're perfectly and wonderfully made. Accept that and move in it.
We're gonna leave that there. That was the perfect ending. So we are coming to the end of the conversation, and I just want each lady, starting with Jessica here, to just talk about their companies. Jessica?
Sure. So my company is called Dominate Your Goals Fitness, and my motto is elevate your mind, transform your body. My company is designed to help anyone, but it's primarily geared towards women to help build their confidence and help them find themselves through health, fitness. Health and fitness, though, I believe it starts in your mind first, as we've been talking about it, which is why I have the slogan of elevate your mind, transform your body. For me, it's not just about teaching women how to be healthy, but also number one, accepting where you are first. Learning to love yourself as you are first, because when you can love yourself as you are, then you can give yourself permission to evolve. I do personal training, I do nutrition plans, and of course, the other part of who I am is being a singer and songwriter.
Wonderful. Allie?
So my name is Allie. I'm the founder of BioCurls, which originated as I would say it was more tools for natural hair, but my passion lied more within the empowerment and the mental health approach to loving natural hair. So we've transitioned into empowerment coaching. So I work with individuals one-on-one and just help them reach their hair goals in a more meaningful way instead of using a product to fix a problem, and using it as a Band-Aid. I'm there to pretty much get rid of the scar and the battle wound altogether. And so that when they move forward using products or anything for their natural hair, at the end of the day, their foundation is strong. They have that relationship with their hair and they're going to continue to show up unapologetically. So I really focus on natural hair empowerment and just helping be your personal hype woman, if you will. So
My name is Ceata Lash, and I'm the founder and inventor of the Puff Cuff. Let's say 11, 12 years ago, I invented this when I stopped chemically straightening my hair, and I needed to be able to put my hair up in a way that made me feel comfortable in my own skin with my textured hair, as well as not have me to have a raging headache by the end of the day. So this is the alternative to elastic bands. The way you use it is you gather your hair first, you clip the Puff Cuff around, and then our hair naturally grows out, so your hair expands into the cuff, which keeps the hooks closed. So there's no tension, there's no headache, there's no hair damage. And I just invented this tool, again, to fill a gap that was ignored by other hair accessory companies, especially when it came to people with textured hair. We're using tools that were never designed for us to begin with, and it was like, okay, there's something that we need. Let me fill that gap and put this on the market so people can have a tool to help them embrace and love and style their curls that they would naturally, that it just feels natural and good to them.
So I just want to thank you ladies once again for this conversation. I know there's going to be a lot of comments, but like we said in the beginning, we hope that this conversation just opens the conversation in other communities and with mother, daughter, sister, and maybe even sister, brother. Everybody's information will be down below. I will see you next time. Bye.